Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm a lecturer at King's College, and sorry, I'm a bit sick today, so if I sound terrible, I apologize. And I lecture on two programs, the MSc in Applied Neuroscience and the Psychology and Neuroscience of Mental Health. Both of these are online master programs. We have approximately 2,700 students. And I will be presenting today with Dr. Paula Alves, who will join any minute. And she is a teaching fellow on our program and a lecturer at Greenwich University. So I'll just give you a very, very brief overview of our program, and then we can talk a bit more about our study. So our study is indeed a mixed method study, but today we're only presenting the qualitative aspect, which is used to inform the quantitative aspect, which we're going to start in the next couple of months. So, just kind of very briefly about the program itself. So, our program is a carousel program. Students start off with the foundation modules and have to complete four modules. Then they advance into the advanced modules where they have a choice and they choose four modules out of the list you can see here. Finally, they move on to the research carousel, where they also complete what we call a synoptic project, which is very similar to an MSc dissertation. Um, we have very diverse student groups from all over the world and very diverse ages as well, because it's a part-time program. So many of our students also work full-time. We have various opportunities for interaction across the program. So students have a student success advisor that accompanies them throughout the whole program. There's teaching fellows and there's module leads. Every teaching fellow is assigned to a group of up to 25 students per module, and they kind of have those one-to-one sessions. And the lecturers, myself included, as module leads, we kind of give an overview of the program and have synchronous sessions as well as asynchronous lectures. So there's various opportunities aside from live webinars. They have one-to-one office hours with their teaching fellows. There's group sessions on a weekly basis. We have discussion forums that are peer to led. We have Q&A forums that are moderated by teaching fellows, and then other kind of more structured activities that we offer. So overall, we started this whole, the idea started because there really is a gap in online learners' sense of belonging or sense of community. Um, More generally, most of the studies are an undergraduate students, and many of them are kind of about focus on COVID or post COVID. And here, this is a program that started way before COVID. And, it really is kind of a program that allows people to study online in a very part time way so that they are able to maintain their, often most of our students work full time. So we really wanted to kind of look at the different cultural backgrounds that we have, the socioeconomic factors, and the identities of our students, also taking into account individual variability. And really, most of the studies, as I said, are focused on post-pandemic and hybrid models or in-person studies that suddenly became online. So these are really a little bit different than what we're doing, and the impact of the course design on community building. So there isn't enough evidence right now to kind of suggest what works and what doesn't in this field. So that kind of is where our idea for this project stemmed from. And we, as I said, this is part of a mixed method study. So right now we have finished the qualitative component. The quantitative component will be open to all students, but we're using what we're going to present today, kind of the main findings of the qualitative component to inform the quantitative one and really know which questions we need to ask as well. And then we're hoping that this will enable us to have a comprehensive understanding of what a sense of belonging or community means to our students and what it means on different levels within our program and within King's. So the study design for the qualitative component um, encompassed 30 interviews that were conducted online on Teams. We had a pretty good gender distribution that is very similar to the gender distribution that we see within our program. The age range was from 22 to 60 for the qualitative interviews. 55% of the participants were from abroad, international students. 50% of them had a professional qualification, and 40% of them were in full time employment, 25% were in part time employment, and 35% were not working at the moment. Now, this is more or less kind of very representative of there's Paula just joined. Great. So this is more or less representative of our program. This is kind of what we see. And as I mentioned at the start, for those joining, we have approximately 2,700 students on the two MSc programs that we've included in this. And hi, Paula. So
Hi.
perfect timing. I just introduced the programs and the socio-demographic characteristics of the interview participants. And now I'll hand it to you to go more into the methods and the findings.
Thank you so much. Apologies for the delay. I was delivering a teaching session, but apparently, without being on purpose, I just joined literally when I was supposed to join. Um, so,
So I'll
for
go to the next slide.
Yeah. All right. So for this interview, as Jasmin was saying, we covered um, four big topics. So we started off by talking with people about what they think of the sense of community in general, how it is important to them, why, what are the benefits, and then we started to unpack the layers of how they experience the community at their program. So at the King's level, at an institutional level, and then within the program. And we finalized the interview by asking them how they think they could be more connected with the program. So asking for recommendations. So this is roughly, of course, it was a semi-structured interview, but these were the general topics that we asked people. Next. So to analyze the data, we used a qualitative analysis approach following a thematic framework analysis, which has steps that are very similar to any other kind of qualitative analysis. So we started by transcribing, familiarizing with the data, assigning codes, think about designing teams based on the merging of some codes according to the content that people shared, then kind of mapping out the biggest themes and then thinking about what they meant. So from a more interpretation point of view. Next. Right. So the results. So we came across uh, five big topics in terms of what people felt was important to them when discussing the sense of community in the program. So first of all, as you can see here, we have this axis with number of interviews, just to give an indication of how many people within our sample mentioned this topic to give an idea of the importance of the topics raised by people. So more than half of people reported things around how isolated they feel when they join the program. Next on the list was the importance of peer networks, engaging with others in some sort of context. Then approximately half of people talked about the role that we, the staff, play in helping them feeling connected with the program. Of course, there were some downsides reported by others, reported by students, sorry. So things that they consider to be barriers to to feeling part of the program. And finally, not surprisingly, because this was part of the interview, right? But we also gathered ideas or suggestions that people had in terms of how we can improve the program, which was enough to generate a theme on its own. Next. Right. So the theme one, as I was saying, was something that most people talked about, and it refers to how lonely or isolated they feel when they begin the program. Most people said they were not really aware of how they could connect with others. They didn't know how to engage with other people, how to approach them, and that made them feel lost sometimes. Some people said, for instance, okay, there was a discussion boards, but it was just words on the screen. There were no faces. I didn't know if the struggles I was having were the same as other people because I didn't know who were my peers were even. So there was this general feeling of how isolating it can be in the beginning to start an online program. Next. So the second biggest theme in terms of importance for people was peer networks. So it seems like it was a game changer for people in the program once they learned about the existence of WhatsApp groups, so social networks in which students engage, which are not fostered or even created by us in the program. They are student-led. Students create these groups and then they add on each other. And for some people, this was mentioned as, very important to a very important setting to talk with others, to share experiences, to feeling less alone, share the struggles. However, there were some people who said they still felt excluded. Even though they were part of these networks, because what happens, they told us, is there is a wide WhatsApp group with everyone, but then some people form groups, smaller groups within the bigger group, and those that don't, basically, it is down to the fact of sharing a certain characteristic, like for instance, in the group, people check if there's other people from London, for instance. And so those people from London create a group for London students. And those that are not part of the London group, they feel excluded somehow. So they feel like they are missing on something that others are doing as a group. So there was these two sides of the coin here, but generally people talked about the importance of having networks with peers as a very important aspect of feeling part of the community. Theme 3. So, not surprisingly, lots of people mentioned how important we, the staff, are in terms of helping people feeling connected with the program. So, people said when they met with the module leads in Teams meetings, one-to-ones, webinars, it really helped them feeling like, okay, there's real people behind the Moodle, the slides, the materials. They were usually um, conceived as very supportive. Well, in some cases, people said, they didn't engage that well with teaching fellows or the staff, but of course, that's also down to individual preferences. But the idea here is that we can help and have a very important role in helping people feeling more connected with the program. We are kind of the face of the program for the lack of a physical environment. Theme 4. As I said, we asked toward the ends of the interview about how they think they could be more engaged with the program, or if they had any experiences that were less positive in terms of feeling connected with the program. And students, they talked about things that they identified as barriers, like language. For instance, we have students from all over the world, and some people struggle a bit when English, for instance, is not their first language. There's also different cultural backgrounds. Again, people from all over the world do our program. So sometimes, For instance, in communities, in cultures where it's less encouraged to be very sociable or extroverted, you may feel more reluctant to engage with others or ask direct questions to their peers. I don't know, but this was mentioned as a barrier to some people in terms of engaging. There's a very real barrier, which is the time zone differences. Some people said they would like to be present in um, meetings or live events, but or engage with peers with whom they seem to have a similar view. For instance, in the discussion board, they may connect with what others are saying, but then they realize they live in a country with 12 hours difference, so it's impossible to connect. And other people also talked about um, sometimes we can also be good and bad, so they really like the stuff in terms of connection, but they would like to have more of us, so which is not always possible, but that was also raised as a limitation, lack of opportunities to engage with stuff. And then we asked people for ideas or suggestions on what we could do to improve our program, which was our final theme. So people mentioned, for instance, that there could be more efforts from the university level to do community building events, or to share more information about the support available in the institution. They said, for instance, that there was not a clear space for people to ask non-related course questions. The discussion boards always well, they are generally thematic, so some people said it feels like a tick box exercise, more like another assignment rather than a place for real discussions, which we would welcome. Having opportunities to engage with people that have been in the program before and that know how to navigate the system would be helpful. So having this mentorship program was something that some people suggested. And also this idea that some people shared, that the university assumes that we know how to navigate the resources available, but students don't always know when they are first given the login details and the materials to start doing the program. Next. So just to put it in a more structured way, in terms of specific recommendations, students said, for instance, that could be helpful to have welcome events at different points in time when students join the program, that would introduce the program not just from a learning perspective, but introducing the resources and the networks that exist in the community. Again, how like I said, how to navigate the program. They suggested maybe having a peer mentoring program would be helpful, in which people who have completed the program could be used or paired up with new students to provide guidance. Having a discussion forum that is not focused on topics, but which helps people to really socialize. And having, some people said this as well, having someone checking in with students from time to time to touch base on how they are doing could be helpful too. Of course, some of these things are not necessarily realistic given our student numbers, but nevertheless, it's something to consider. Jasmin, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the things kind of to conclude that we did see is that there's a process students go through throughout the program where they do feel kind of overwhelmed. and they do feel very isolated at the start. And overall, we do see that students progress with all of the support, formal support, informal discussions, that we do see that students progress to kind of a place that they feel more of a sense of a community and more a sense of belonging within the program. I think what we can really kind of conclude from this is that we maybe need to put more emphasis at the start of the student's journey. We have a lot of program support. We don't have very much institutional support. And, kind of the things that we could do is provide more formal webinars maybe at the start when students start their whole journey. And, as they become more independent and more feeling a sense of belonging, they can also seek their own support and needs. So I think that's overall what we found. Let me just stop sharing now. Um, yeah. And I think overall that's what we learned from this is that we need to kind of put more of an effort at the start. We also need to think how we can have students engage better with each other in an unstructured way, kind of on a more social level. For us, there's all the kind of structured barriers, as Paula said, time zone restrictions, geographical restrictions. So even when there are events in London, let's say, many of our students, about 50% of our students don't live in England, and then they struggle to come. So, this is kind of something we're always thinking about, and hopefully we can implement some of the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you.